All right, well, good morning, guys. That was big, Peter. I think a lot of times, guys, we lose sight of the difference between consequences and condemnation, right? When we're suffering from consequences because of what we did, we might think that God's actually condemning us. And now we're just disqualified from doing anything. And that's why he had to go to Peter and bring him back and say, Peter, go feed your sheep. You blew it, but you're forgiven. Now I need you back in the game again. And he might be saying that to you. He needs you back in the game again. Don't discount yourself. We've all done things that could disqualify us, but that's why he went to the cross, and that's why we have grace. So thank you for that word. All right, so let's talk about God. Let's talk about inquiring of God and our relationship with him. So our mission statement here at One Thing for Men is to spur men on to a closer walk with God. And the question I have with you is, how close are you walking with God? And would your answer match what God's answer is about you? How close is your walk with God? So, in life there's ebbs and flows, right? There's times when, whether it's our marriage, whether it's a friendship, or whether it's our walk with God, that sometimes we're pressing in and we're getting closer. And sometimes we're falling back. Sometimes things are just really tight, and there's just a good connect. And sometimes life is happening, and we're distracted over here, and it's not quite as tight as it used to be. When we started our season back in fall, if you remember, we studied the letters to the 7 churches. And the very first letter was written to Ephesus, a tremendous church, an influential church, a strong church. The pedigree of who went there and what they were doing, their influence in all of Turkey was just tremendous. And Jesus writes this letter, and he commends them for a lot of things. And then he says something that's on your table card. Go ahead and pull it out. It says, I know your deeds, your labor, and your perseverance. Without growing weary, you have persevered and endured many things for the sake of my name. But I have this against you. You've abandoned your first love. Therefore, keep in mind how far you have fallen. When we studied that, I camped there for a little bit, and I thought, how far have I fallen? So I accepted Christ my senior year in high school, right after New Year's. It was right as the entrance of baseball season. I was on a baseball team, and it was also senior slide time, right? So you did a lot of things besides study. and when I accepted Christ, Sandy, my wife, actually invited me to a Bible study, and everything just came. The Holy Spirit just lit it up, and I realized what I had heard as factual all along was so true, and I just wanted time with him. So guys would invite me because we're having a party at a guy's house because we just won a baseball game on Friday, and we got another game coming Monday, and we're going to probably do everything possible to make sure we don't win Monday by how we act on Saturday. But I stopped going to some of those things. And my best friend Steve said, are you okay, man? Like, what's going on? Well, what was going on is I just wanted to be with the Lord. I just wanted to be alone and be with the Lord and press in because I felt like he was speaking to me and he was saying things to me. And in the hustle and bustle and everything going on, I couldn't hear from him. So I just wanted to go be by myself in a park and just press in and talk with God. And so when we were studying this, I was like, am I entering my time on my bench that same way, with that same type of anticipation? This is a new relationship. And I was discovering new things, and I would just talk to him about everything. Or if I kind of lost that a little bit, and I'm just too busy, and I'm not pressing in like I used to press in. And then a couple weeks later, we read the letter to Sardis. And what does he say to Sardis? They had a reputation of being really in tune with God, walking close to God. Their reputation in Turkey was strong. These are godly people. And here's what he says to them. I didn't put that part of the verse on here, but what he said is, you have a reputation for being alive, but in the ebbs and flow of life right now, you are dead in your relationship with me. Wake up. Strengthen what little remains, for even what is left is almost dead. So I read that and I was like, I need to wake up. I used to I couldn't wait to get here. And I realized in the fall, I didn't have that same passion getting to my bench. It's like, did I go there? Yeah. Did I look forward to it? Yeah. But was it the same level of passion where I knew God was meeting me here and I could bring anything to him? And I could leave it here when I left. And I could talk at a level and he would speak to me and I would hear from him and he would bring back the things I was reading in the Word. But I was moving too fast. I can blame it on my cell phone. I can blame it on my schedule. I can blame it on how many lunches. I can blame it on all kinds of stuff. But the bottom line is we can just kind of dull down a little bit in our relationship. And he doesn't want that. He wants us to go back to our first love. He wants us to wake up, hang on to whatever it is that we have. Don't lose it anymore, but press in, right? So before we go to the main story, on page 2, I put a couple of verses on the difference between King Solomon and David, okay? They both asked something of God. They both, one of them finished well and one of them didn't. King Solomon did not finish well. David finished well. Let's look at the difference between what King Solomon asked of God and what David asked of God. So King Solomon is given the reign, and God commends him for this. He comes to him in a dream in Gibeon and says, ask anything you want. And he said, this is a big task that you've put on me to lead your people. Give me wisdom to lead them so that I can understand what I'm supposed to do and what I'm not supposed to do. And God was pleased with that. And he said, okay, because you asked for that and not for a bunch of riches, I'm going to give you both. You're going to be the wisest person who ever lived, but you're also going to be the richest. And so God took care of him like that, but he didn't finish well. Compare that with what David asked for. Here's what David asked for. He said, one thing I ask of the Lord. This is what I desire, to dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to gaze on the beauty of the Lord and seek him in his temple. David's heart was relational. David said, the thing I want, the one thing I want more than anything else is just to be with you, to see you, to observe you, to soak you in. That's what I want. And he finished well. Solomon was transactional. Give me that so I can do this. Okay, hear me. God was pleased with that, but it didn't carry him through. I have to ask myself, and I have to ask you, what do your prayers look like? Are they just transactional? God, help me today. Give me the wisdom I need to do this. Give me the money I need to do that. Give me a job that I need because I need some money right now, right? Is it all transactional? Nothing wrong with that. We need to do that. That's part of it. We're supposed to pray without ceasing all the time, pray about things. But are you missing the relational part of it? Where you're saying, one thing I desire more than all of that, more than anything else, is that I see you. I desire you. I have a relationship with you. Are you going to that place with him? Let's look at the story. It's the 10th of meeting, and it's from Exodus 33. So in Exodus 32, Israel and God have a falling out. Moses goes up the mountain. The people think he's taken too long, which means they think God's taken too long. So they decide to take stuff into their own hands. And they melt their jewelry, and they build a calf, a golden calf. And God says, hey, go down the mountain. Your people are in a mess right now. And so Moses goes down. He's with Joshua, and Joshua says, "You hear that? It sounds like they're at war." He goes, "No, that's not the sound of war. That's the sound of celebration." And they came down, and there they are, having a drunken party, worshiping this calf. And Moses smashes the 10 Commandments. He melts the calf. He puts it in water and makes them all drink it. And then he gets with God, and God says, "I've had it. I'm wiping them all out. Moses, I will make of you a good nation, a great nation." We're resetting. We're starting over. And Moses, who meets with God face to face and talks with him like a friend, and God talks with him like a friend, he says to God, "Don't do that. Don't do that. Remember Abraham? Remember Jacob? Remember the promise you made to Abraham? Remember what you did bringing these people out after 400 years of slavery? And the whole world knew that you were God because you parted the Red Sea. And now they're going to hear that you just got angry with them and wiped them out. They're not going to want to follow you. What kind of God are you?" Give them a break. And so it says God changed his mind. But here's what God said. The Lord told Moses to tell the Israelites, "You are a stubborn and rebellious people. If I were to travel with you for even a moment, I would destroy you. Remove your jewelry and your fine clothes." I'm sick of looking at you like that. "While I decide what to do with you." So from that time, from the time they left Mount Sinai, the Israelites wore no more jewelry or fine clothes. Now, Moses used to take the tent and pitch it at a distance outside the camp. All right, so they would set up camp. God told them, all right, start moving toward the promised land. They would set up camp, and they would do it in the most organized way. 12 tribes. Each tribe, each family, each clan, all of it within that, they all had their section. So if you can picture a rectangle, they all had their thing, and in the middle it was empty. Later, that would become the temple, but at this point in time, Moses set up a tent, but he didn't set it up inside the camp. Why not? Because God said, "I'm not going to be with you. I'm going to give you my angel to go in front of you, but I'm not traveling. If I travel with you, I'd kill you all." So he took the tent and he put it outside the camp. All it was a tent similar to this. It was a one-man tent. It was a place where Moses would go in and meet with God, right? But it was distant. It was outside because God said, "I'm not going to be in the camp with you. But if you want to meet with me, I'll meet with you outside the camp." Right? And so it says, he called it the tent of meeting, and anyone inquiring of the Lord would go to the tent of meeting outside the camp. So, inside the camp, hustle, bustle, busyness, talking, complaining. Where's the next meal coming from? How's your sandals doing? Where are we going to wash our clothes? How are you getting along with your wife? Kids are driving me nuts. All this stuff's going on inside the camp. You want to get with God? Get away from all that. Go outside and go meet with him. Anyone can meet with God here. He'll meet with you here. Moses would go out there regularly. Whenever Moses went out to the tent of meeting, all the people would watch Moses until he disappeared inside. All the people would get up and stand in the entrances of their own tent. Catch that? They would stay in the camp, and they would watch Moses, and they'd watch him go inside the tent, but they would stay by their tent. As he went into the tent, the pillar of cloud would come down and hover at its entrance while the Lord spoke with Moses. When all the people saw the pillar of cloud standing at the entrance of the tent, they would stand up and worship, each one at the entrance of his own tent. Do you know that's in play today? That's the same dynamic. Here the people are. They could go and meet with God directly and talk with God directly. But they were satisfied letting Moses do that and worship because Moses did that and wait to hear what Moses had to say. What did God tell you? Have you fallen into that at all? Where you're happy that your pastor is going to the tent of meeting, hearing from God, and bringing you a message, and you'll worship because you got that message, but you're not meeting them. That's a lot of our culture today. We all can go to the tent of meeting. The curtain was split in half on Good Friday. We have direct entrance into the Holy of Holies. We can meet God face to face. We don't have to be a priest that has perfected everything. So, are you doing it? Or are you happy to go, yeah, awesome that you heard from God. Awesome that you're sharing that with me. What did God say to you? Inspire me with what he said to you. And it's too distant for yourself when he wants to meet with all of us and have that kind of relationship with him. Thus the Lord would speak to Moses face to face as a man speaks to a friend. What does that mean, face to face? If I say, let's get together and let's meet one-on-one, I want to meet you face to face. What does that mean? What's that? Yeah. I just want to be upfront and honest. I want you to be able to see my face. If we're talking over the phone, if we're texting, we're not going to get the same type of feel from it. I want to sit down with you, and I just want us to talk together about this. That's how Moses would meet with them. And that's how God said anybody can do that. Meet with me face to face, and let's talk as a friend talks to a friend. So what does that look like? This week was a little bit of a heavy week for me. I met with a friend who's going through a horrible situation in his marriage. It doesn't look like it's going to make it. And because there's stubbornness on both sides. I can carry that with me because I really care for this guy and I really care for this couple. And I can carry that with me and be bothered by that and be heavy about that. Or I have a choice. I can come here and I can say, Father, is there anything else you want me to do? Is there anything else I can do to speak into this? I love this couple and you love this couple and Satan's after this couple. Help them. I'm asking you to do something miraculous to melt hearts of stone. They become stone. Is there anything else you want me to do? And then I shut up and I listen. And he's either going to give me a verse or give me an idea, which he did, or he's not. But the thing is, when I leave, I can be on my feet again. I can be in the moment where I'm at. I can flow with my wife. I can be a good friend. I can go play golf and have fun. Because I'm not carrying that with me. That's what God wants us to do, is give him all of our stuff. Bring to me everything that bothers you. And let me speak to you. We could look at this story and say, well, God spoke to people back then. He doesn't speak now. Are you kidding me? You know he does, right? You know he doesn't if you're over here going, good job. What'd you hear? No, he's not speaking to you then. But if you go to the tent of the meeting and you go inside and you say, God, because of the work of Jesus Christ, I can stand before you. Thank you. Now let me bear with you everything that's bothered me. Let me give it to you. Watch how he speaks to you. I need wisdom. Watch how he speaks to you. I want better relationship with you. Help me figure this out. This is awkward at first. If you don't do this, the first time you do this is awkward. It is. As you sit here and you go, are you really here? The God of the universe, you're really here? You're meeting with me? You're giving me your full attention right now? Face to face, mano a mano, one-on-one? Yes. That's what he offers us. That's your tent of meeting. That's your meeting place. The best advice that Gail ever gave me was find this somewhere on your property. Before we go to the tables, let me talk about 4 reasons why this does not happen, okay? One reason it doesn't happen, we don't have time. Wrong. We don't make time. We have time for anything that's important to us, all right? How many people can you name that if they called you up and said, hey, I'd like to meet with you, you'd be like, I'm there in a minute. I'll drop anything. I'd love to get some time with you. The God of the universe offers you a tent of meeting. Make time. Number 2, don't have a place. Don't have a tent of meeting. Establish one. Establish one. You know where it is. And when you go to that place, that's a special place. That's where you meet with him. That's where you talk with him. That's where you lay out the biggest boulders you're carrying. Make time. Make a special place. Have a tent. Have a bench. Have a closet. Have a chair. Have some place where that's the place. When Gail told me to do this, he said, let Sandy know. She knows when you're in that place, she knows what you're doing. She leaves you alone. And she has a sense of security because I'm there before God. I'm taking it before God. Her man's bowing before the God of heaven right now. Big, big difference in dynamical relationship. All right. Another reason why we don't is we don't set an appointment. What do you don't go to a doctor unless you set an appointment. You don't go to a dentist unless you set an appointment. We don't go to the Braves game unless we set a date, right? Same thing's true, but there's all kinds of things in life that'll pull us from this. Make an appointment. You don't work out because why? You don't set the time to do it. That's also true about prayer. It's also true about tent of meeting. Set a place, set a time. Finally, we don't prepare for it. Hey, I grew up in the business world. Every time I had a big meeting, I was prepared for it. Aren't you? You have a big meeting with work or with your line of work. How much preparation do you go into it? Before I go here, I prepare for it. What do I want to talk to today? 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to God with 4 things today. All right. God, I've got 4 today. Here we go. I'm not in a hurry, but let me just tell you about them. And you go there, like a friend talking to a friend. All right? Make time, have a place, set an appointment, prepare for it. Let's go to the table. This is a good reminder for us, guys. All right, let's go to the tables. I'll be back in about 20 minutes. All right, guys, let's pull together. Anybody, something you'd like to share from this morning that stood out to you, that encouraged you, that you're going to put into practice? Jefferson.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Yeah, one of the things that was brought up at our table is that God still speaks. He still speaks today. And if we don't believe that, there's no reason to go to the bench. We're going to sit there in silence and just talk and not hear anything. So believe that God speaks to us, whether audibly or through others or just his presence. But he will speak to us. So we got to listen, huh?
Yeah, he does. And keep in mind, it's away from the camp. It's away from the hustle and bustle. You get aside, right? I read it when I was preparing for this. I read a story, a couple in New York City. They're on Fifth Avenue, and there's the honking horns and the traffic and the this and that. And the husband had talked his wife into going because he wanted to see New York City, and they were up in upstate New York bird watching, right? So they're walking, and his wife says, "I hear a bird." And he goes, "What?" She goes, "I hear a bird." He goes, "You can't hear a bird." He goes, "No, I hear." And then she goes, "Look up over that doorway, and there's a little bird there." And then he goes, so while he was going on, she dropped some change on the ground. He went, "Somebody just dropped some money." It's like, we're going to hear what we really want to hear, right? All right, somebody else, something that stood out today.
When, as many in the room may know, I've been in the golf industry a number of years, and when Ron was talking about his 4 points, I related to our table very much how that reminds me in golf when you make a tee time to play golf. You've now committed to time, you've made an appointment, you're prepared because you're bringing clubs, balls, hats, shoes, and so forth. And now you're going to have that relationship with the golf course, but for many golfers, that's a relationship with God in many ways as you're playing the golf course. So I found the irony in what you were saying in your how to be prepared and meet with God, how that relates in a very abstract way to how we go out and play golf.
Well said. And you asked for... Yeah. And if we make an appointment with you, it's 4.5 hours. All right, one more. Somebody else. Something that stood out.
When we were talking about Ron's 4 points, make time for God, make a special place to meet with God, set an appointment with God, and go to God prepared. We talked about consistency, that if you take all 4 of those things and put a header above them, the header would be consistency. And any one of those things can break down, any 2, any 3 of them can break down, and as soon as they do, you've lost consistency. So for us, as we discussed it, the key to those 4 principles is getting in a mindset of being consistent and doing them every day.
Yeah, I was sharing with our table, I think it was 10 years ago, we got like 15 guys together, and we met with Ken Boa, and we called it Boa in the Boathouse. We met in a boathouse. And the topic was, we all set aside an entire day, and the topic was how to finish well. And when I reflect back on what we all went through at that time, almost everything we talked about was transactional. Do this, transactional, do that, transactional, do this. I'm thinking that meeting could have been really short if we just would have went to David's prayer of relationship. This one thing I desire, that I be in your presence, that I see you. That's the heart of it. Yes, we have to pray transactionally. We're told to pray without ceasing about all these things, but we have to have this time with him away regularly. And for that to happen, we need a place. We need to make an appointment. We need to go prepared. So hopefully it's been an encouragement. I want to call your attention to the very end, which I didn't read, of Exodus 33. It's verse 11. It's on page 3 at the bottom. Then Moses would return to the camp, but his young assistant Joshua, son of Nun, would not leave the tent. If you don't have a hunger to be with God, let me encourage you to spend some time around somebody that's hungry and see if you don't get hungry. If I go out to eat with my wife, okay, and she's a little more health conscious than I am, but I'm getting there. But I'll order fries, and I'll ask her if she wants fries. No, I'm not. Do you know she'll eat over half my fries? Do you know why? Because she sees them and she smells them, and all of a sudden they look really good, and therefore now she's. The same thing is true about our walk with God. The same thing's true about prayer. If you want to become hungry for prayer, be around someone that's really praying and meeting with God, and you'll catch it. You'll be like, I want to. That's inspiring to me. I'm going to do that myself. One of the things I'd suggest you consider doing this summer, as you guys gather together, at restaurants or at somebody's home, however you're going to do that, make this one of your topics. How are you pressing in with you personally, meeting with God all the time, and encourage each other in it. Help each other become hungry. Nothing like being around great food. There's nothing like being around someone who's caught fire and is helping someone else catch fire. So, all right, let's finish at the table. Next week we got a really cool week. It's I'm not even going to drop it on you, but it's a really neat, surprise kind of topic about a guy that we don't often hear about, but he's probably one of the most studly guys in the Bible. So that's next week. All right, finish at your table, and hey, sign up for that Braves game. It's going to be a fun night. Let's see if we can't take a night and all get together. All right, see you.